That down. Let's move on to this, shall we? Last night, I did something that I can't believe has finally happened. Went to go see Superman. Rob, myself, Ray, Ann, our friends Matt and Jay Lynn, Tommy and Ryan, we all went out to dinner first, got ourselves stoked up, walked up the stairs, went into the theater, and we watched Superman. Now, I should point out right now, the people have spoken. I put this out on social media. We'll bring it up right here. As of right now, 85%, which I believe is a number you called out yesterday, Rob. I predicted 82%. You predicted 85.
Settle down, yeah.
And here we are at 85. So the critic score is 85%. The audience, the verified audience score, 96%. You know, it's funny. I was just talking on the show yesterday. We were talking about audience scores, and I said, I never really paid much attention to even Rotten Tomatoes audience score unless it's below 60. I start getting a little concerned if it's below 60. But I don't really get impressed or take note unless it's over 90. Because I won't go into the whole thing again, but I don't really take notice unless it drops below 60 or goes over 90. This thing's at 96% right now, with well over 1,000 fans who went to go see the screenings last night, registering their votes, saying they like it. People like Superman. It just is what it is. There are going to be some people out there that try to paint a narrative that it's divisive. It's not divisive. Clearly, like any movie, there are going to be people that do like it and don't. There's going to be some people that don't like it. Movies are art. Art is subjective. It hits us all in different ways. There are going to be some people that don't like the film, and there's nothing wrong with that. But don't buy into anybody trying to pitch you a narrative that this movie is divisive.
Yeah.
96% ain't divisive.
5 to 6%. Come on. You're just loud.
Yeah. 60 to 40 is divisive. 55 to 45, that's divisive. 85% and 96% is not divisive. But what would we think about it? Because I've had some movies that have had high scores that I've not liked. I've particularly had in the last month and a half a number of films I've been very excited about that I ended up walking out disappointed with. Jurassic. What's that?
Rebirth.
Yeah. Jurassic World Rebirth. Megan 2.0, which I was excited about, and I did not like that movie. Even 28 years later, that I didn't think it was bad. I didn't think 20 years later, but I was hoping for a lot better. What would Superman do? Superman delivers. Superman delivers. It was, I said in my out of the theater reaction last night that it delivered joy, it delivered excitement, it delivered fun, it delivered heart, and it delivers hope. It was the Superman that I think the world of movies really needs right now. Now, listen, you guys know I am a massive fan of Man of Steel. And I actually had somebody say to me, how can you like Man of Steel and like and like this Superman?
It's ridiculous.
It's the same reason I like steak and I like ice cream. They're two totally different things.
Yeah.
But I absolutely love them both. And that's great. And I love Henry Cavill's interpretation of Superman. I love what Zack Snyder did in Man of Steel. But that was one kind of flavor. James Gunn delivers a different flavor, and I think it's a flavor that was extremely timely and extremely needed right now. And Rob can attest to this. I was laughing my ass off through a lot of the movie.
You were.
And several times literally yelled out, holy shit. Because, guys, there are a couple things they do in this movie that you are going to hear some people around you go, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like
one in particular.
Two in particular. That is like, I did not think they'd go there. Anyway, we won't go into spoilers here. We're not going to go into any spoilers here. By the way, I will do an open spoiler discussion on Sunday. That gives all of you guys plenty of time. That gives you today, tomorrow, and Saturday to go out and see the movie. We'll do an open spoiler discussion here on the channel on Sunday. David Cornsweet. I don't know that I will ever doubt James Gunn casting ever again. He's never given us a reason to, I mean, everybody looked at him funny. Wait a minute, you got the Parks and Rec guy to play Star-Lord? Like, but that turned out to be perfection. You got John Cena to play Peacemaker? Well, that turned out to be perfection. Casting David Cornsweet as Superman, as this iteration of Superman. He wouldn't have been perfect in Zack Snyder's Superman.
No.
But in this iteration of Superman, he was the perfect guy to cast. We knew from day one Rachel Brosnahan was the perfect Lois Lane. And she is. She so embodies the spirit of Margot Kidder, I found in that. And I just thought she was an absolutely fantastic. And I can't say enough about Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. I really can't. Because he pushes this line sometimes of feeling like this comic booky evil guy. And then he'll do something that makes you hold your breath. And Nicholas Hoult embodied all of it perfectly. One of the big things that we've heard coming out of all the early reactions and early reviews was the term, some variation of the term of, this is the most comic book movie we've ever seen. It is like the comic books literally leapt off the page and onto the screen, right? We've heard a lot of people say that. I get it now. I totally get exactly what they were saying. This was a living manifestation of a comic book, the spirit of comic books, in every way, shape, or form. And one of the things that this movie is unapologetic about is that this is a comic book movie that takes place in a world that's in a comic book. And it's unapologetic about it. And it never pulls its punches on it. And it leans into it, again, unapologetically. And it did not take long for our brains, the people in the audience we saw it with at any rate, for our brains to tune into that. It tuned into it pretty quick.
I have to say, though, John, that did take me a minute, because you have an expectation. We've seen Superman presented on screen a certain way, and I talked about this in my own review last night. And it took me a while to acclimate, and I can't say what scene I was keyed in on it, and like, oh. And it was almost like my shoulder was out of joint or something, and then it finally went into its socket, and I'm like, okay. I have to tell you that there was a moment in this movie, and from remember the very first picture we ever saw of him in the suit where he's putting on his boots?
And the alien outside the window.
You don't know what that is. And I didn't know what that was. And I was waiting, that scene in this movie
killed me.
When we were dying. I mean,
we were dying.
I was dying. I'm like, this, if you need to know what kind of a movie it is, that particular scene in general, and it goes on and on. And I was just grinning. It was, when you get to that scene, a lot of people are going to, look, you know what it is? It's like, I love comedies, and I love comedies like Tootsie, character-based comedies. But I also love Airplane and Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. I feel like most Superman movies have been like Tootsie. But this movie has a little bit of Airplane, has a little bit of Ace Ventura in it. And so you can like comedies, but they're like,
but to your point, it's dashes of it, right? It's not like it doesn't go Thor, Love and Thunder, or Spaceballs. Like, this isn't a spoof.
No, it's not
like
a spoof.
Dashes of
but
that.
It's making these big swings. It's totally Silver Age.
Yes.
It really goes into the Silver Age.
Exactly.
Where you're zipping between really serious stuff happening, but at the same time, it's bracketed by some crazy super science depiction that you're like, wow, this is a huge, like the cover of something. This is something Jack Kirby would draw, and there's a certain river in this movie. A river, they call it a certain. I was like, that's wild.
That's
man.
wild. That's height comic book.
Yeah, and I'm just like, this is wild, and then it becomes a big plot point and all this, and it jumps around like this, and I'm like, I've never seen anything like this. And I just found it delightful, but nothing more encompassed the movie to me than that scene that, from the very first picture they ever showed us, with that thing outside the window. That was one of those, I was like, what is that?
Yeah.
I wonder what's going on, and why is Superman why is he pulling his boots on if that thing's outside the window?
And by the way, I swear, no dialogue, no nothing. I'm not going to give away anything of context or anything like that. But in that scene, Lois Lane is kind of us.
Right.
Because she's talking to Superman, every once in a while she keeps kind of looking out the window, and it's like, she's us. It's like, what about what's going on out there?
It's so funny.
And can I say, because look, everybody knows that out of the 50, 60, 70, 80 comic book movies we've seen, there have been maybe 3 times that I have appreciated romantic chemistry. Tony and Pepper, Peter and Gwen with the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, Druig and Makari. I don't like my romance. I don't really care about that. Rachel Brosnahan and David Cornsweet chemistry was awesome.
Oh yeah.
It was awesome. I believed that relationship, and they didn't idealize the relationship either.
No.
It's a relationship that has issues, and I just loved their chemistry together.
I was telling you this earlier, my only criticism of the movie is clearly I think the movie was much longer. And there's all these secondary characters that are all great. Like Wendell Pierce as Perry White. He's really shortchanged in the movie. And I'm sure that James Gunn had a cut of this movie that was like 2 hours and 45 minutes, and it was spectacular. But they said, look, we can't do it. We got to cut this movie down. It's the first movie. It's coming out of the gate.
By the way, that's not what we're saying happened. We're saying that's what it felt like.
Yeah, it felt like these characters. Look, Jimmy Olsen has kind of a side story, like this ongoing.
That was gold.
It was gold. It was so gold.
Such
And I'm
gold.
like, I want to see. There's a comic. Darkseid was actually introduced in the comic Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen.
Yep.
The entire fourth world that Jack Kirby created. I want them to make a Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen movie after seeing this film. I'm like, he deserves it. He get all of the characters.
He is an unexpected highlight, though. I was not expecting, like I was expecting something from Mr. Terrific, something from Green Lantern, something from Hawk Girl. I wasn't really expecting anything out of Jimmy Olsen, and he was a very pleasant surprise.
I mean, I thought Guy Gardner was going to grate on me. No,
he was
and
great.
Mr. Terrific is great.
He kind of steals all the scenes.
Oh my God! And even what Isabel Merced got to do, she got just a little stuff, but she's great too. Loved it all.
I love special. It again, not giving any point away, but when you see her throughout the film, you realize all of it, getting understand her personality, but all of it is leading up to one moment that comes later. That was one of my holy shit moments.
Yeah. I love her. I think she's just got charisma to burn. She's
her
beautiful.
world right now.
Her attitude. I mean, she's great.
It's just great. So let's talk about the secondary characters. But you know what? No, since you brought it up, let me go on that first. Because you and I talked after the movie, and I completely agree. The one issue for me with Superman, and I cannot remember the last time I ever said this about any movie. Normally, my number one complaint out of most movies is like they needed to tighten it up. They needed to shorten this down a bit, take 15 minutes out. It would have been a better package. This is the first time in ages that I came out of a movie and I went, it was too short.
Yeah, yes.
It was too short. And
100%.
I 100% agree with you that I feel like James Gunn, again, we're not saying this is what happened, it's just what it feels like to us, that James Gunn was really sensitive about the movie feeling too drawn out and maybe overcompensated a bit. Because one thing you can't deny, this movie moves. Like Anne said after the movie, wait, that was 2 hours? I'm like, I thought it was 90 minutes.
It felt like it was 90 minutes.
It feels like it's 90 minutes because it moves so quick.
I read in some article, I don't know if this is true or not, that the movie opened originally when it was cut together, showing like a week in the life of Clark, of Superman, like day to day to day, and they abandoned that structure. I could believe that that's true. Like, I'm sure editing this movie, they probably look. People don't understand when you shoot what you've got, but you rewrite a movie in the edit bay. A movie's written 3 times: on paper, during production, and in the edit bay. I'm sure he had so much gold to look at with all these actors, because the actors, I thought Nathan Fillion was going to annoy me as Guy Gardner. He did not. It was hilarious. He killed it, and all the actors were so much fun. I'm sure for James Gunn trying to put this together, going, God, there's gold in them Dar Hills, and I mean, there was not. Everything was hilarious, and the tones were shifting from moment to moment, and it all worked. I mean, this movie was delightfully entertaining to me.
And let's talk about Eddie for a second, who I always butcher his last name, as Mr. Terrific. Love that they were putting Hawk Girl in, Guy Gardner's Green Lantern. I was like, really? You're gonna use Mr. Terrific? Really? Can't imagine this movie without him.
Oh, he's so good.
There's a scene that you do see in one of the trailers when like he's got a bunch of soldiers around him and he puts like this force field around Lois. There's a clip of that in one of the trailers. Fabulous scene. That is like all Mr. Terrific. And what they do with the cinematography in that scene, where Whereas other filmmakers shake the camera to try to create this fake sense of energy. What the cinematography does in that scene, though, this highlight marquee Mr. Terrific action sequence, is that they move the camera, and it's in such a way that you feel disoriented with it, but you're actually seeing everything that's going on. And it created this kinetic energy as you're watching it. And like our audience loved that scene. That went over really, really great. So he was fantastic, guys. And I gotta say, I said this in my out of the theater reaction. Again, I confess, year ago when it came out that they were putting Krypto, the super dog, into this movie, I said, guys, that's a step too far. It's a step too far. I want lighter. I want like something joyful, but I think putting in the super dog is a step too far. I was wrong. I was so wrong. Every time Krypto was on screen, you heard in reactions from the audience in our crowd. I ended up loving that damn dog, and boy, does he have a payoff at the end.
You know what? I have to say, there's people that are spoiling everything. You know, the people that are angry about certain things. You know, I was thinking to myself the whole movie. You're thinking to yourself, okay, you're watching this, and Krypto has a cape, and Krypto has this little, little dog tag with the S symbol. The payoff at the end.
Oh my God!
When you find, I mean, especially if you know people have dogs, it was so perfect. It floored me. And again, if you bought the bit, if you buy into this world, and I think a lot of people might not, but if you do, I mean, there's so much in this movie that I can't wait to see it again. But that in particular killed me.
Oh my God!
Because when you're like, of course he has a cape.
That happens.
Of course he has a cape.
And can I say, Alan Tudyk as number 4.
Oh yeah,
as the droid number. Now I said, Mike, listen, I loved Alan Tudyk as the droid, loved him. But when I came out, I said to our group of friends, where all of us are standing around, and I said, the one thing is, he's really just K2SO. Not because he's a robot, but he's actually talking just like him and says exactly what K2SO is.
It sounded like him in the trailer.
But Ann turned to me and said, yeah, and? Because it's like, it worked.
Right.
He's got a line at the end of the movie that, he's funny throughout the movie, but he's got one line near the end of the movie that just, again, absolutely killed me. I love that. The Miss Tesmacher, straight out of the Christopher Reeve kind of spirit of the movies, was great. And she's got
updated.
But updated
for the modern age,
and has her own little sub story going on, which was wonderful. Again, man, this is just a wonderful, joyful film. Now, let me say this though, and I like to preface this on all movies that I really love, but particularly this one. This Superman movie is not going to be for everybody. There are things about this Superman movie that you hear me explaining that are reasons why I love it. But for some people, depending on your sensibility, the reasons we love it might actually be the reasons somebody else doesn't like it.
Oh yeah, I know.
Here's an example, right? Somebody could say, John, you got to try these wings. They got this great spice to it that really kicks. I hate spicy food. I don't know if you knew this, but I cannot eat spicy food. I hate spicy food. So the whole reason you are loving that chicken wing legitimately will also legitimately be the reason I don't like the chicken wing, because spice works for you. Hot spice works for you, but it does not work for me. And therefore that wing will not be a positive experience for me. I think the vast majority of people are going to love this movie, as is being proved out by the numbers. But at the same time, I think there are going to be well-meaning people that go into this movie hoping to have a good time, and the tone that James Gunn decides to adopt that works for most people is just simply not going to work for them.
Oh yeah,
and this is not going to be a movie for everybody, Rob.
You know, I really was reminded, like the Justice League. I loved the Justice League when I was a kid. I took, even though there was the Super Friends cartoons and stuff, I took the Justice League seriously. In the mid 80s, post Crisis on Infinite Earths, they came out with a new Justice League comic that Keith Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis did. And it was comedic. Kevin McGuire drew it.
Right.
Guy Gardner was it was straight up comedy. I was loathing this comic. I was like, how dare you make it? I loved it. I loved that comic. It was great. And sometimes it went too far, but it introduced, this movie is that Justice League comic. It is that, the Keith Giffen, it is that Kevin McGuire thing. I saw a picture, Kevin McGuire, I follow him on X, we follow each other. I saw Kevin McGuire at the premiere, a picture of him. I wanted to contact him and ask him, I'm like, dude, you must have been sitting in that theater with a gigantic grin on your face, because he changed the way superhero faces were drawn in comics forever.
Yeah.
And that's what this was. And if you like that comic, and I bet people are going to go get that comic that never read it before. There's great omnibus editions, because you get that feel. And that's clearly what James Gunn was going for. That is not what everybody wants. It's not what everybody wants. But I loved it. And seeing it writ large on the big screen, I had no idea. Like, they had a really interesting government component in this movie. That was really neat how they handled that. Again, I could have seen that more expanded, but there was, like, Lex Luthor is addressing the government at one point. I'm like, this is really interesting. And it was really, I was fascinated by the world itself, and I could have sat there for another 2 hours.
I'm going to say, somebody in the live chat, like Yachi in the live chat, saying, John, that's what divisive is. No, it's not. If that's what divisive is, then everything is divisive, because there's not one thing that everybody loves. Divisive is when it's like half the people like it,
except ninjas.
Except ninjas. No division there. But I mean, when you got 95% and 85%, that's not divisive.
Right.
Like, if you're saying if even one person out there doesn't like something,
you
that's
divided
divisive.
us.
Well, then every single thing in the world is it's not divisive at all. But I also got to say, you know, Rob, when I'm looking back at the movie, I'm not saying this is the greatest comic book movie of all time. I'm not even saying yet that it has supplanted Man of Steel as my all-time favorite Superman movie. I'm just saying this was a great, joyous, fun experience. And it delivered on its promise.
It was wildly entertaining. You know, I did not expect, the messianic. You know what's really interesting? The Superman, his suit. People have been talking about his suit. They don't like the trunks.
Right.
I don't like the trunks.
By the end of that movie, his Superman suit is perfect for that universe. And he looked like, when he's being taken out in shackles, you've seen that picture everywhere. I'm like, it all works. Even the Justice Gang, their Maxwell Lord.
So good.
It all works. It all, for what it is in context. Look, there's going to be a lot of people. I think there's a lot of people that want to, when you cosplay characters, you want to cosplay because you want to feel like you're Wonder Woman or Superman or whatever. This is a different flavor of that. I know people will be cosplaying these characters, but it's a different vibe.
By the way, I got to throw this in there too, because I've seen some people say, "Oh, this sounds like a movie that's really more aimed for kids." It's really not.
No.
It's really aimed more for adults who have read Silver Age. But more than this, like, a couple of our friends who came to this movie, like, after the movie, we were talking, and they got a son, and a good kid, and like, they were saying, I don't know if we can show him this. Because again, I'm not going to go into details, but there's some stuff some parents may not want their kids seeing. Like, that I was like, whoa. Like, so I just think James Gunn understood the assignment and he delivered. It is the fulfillment of the promise of Superman. And I said this in my Out of Theater review, Rob, but this is the greatness of this Superman. The greatness of this Superman does not come from his power, because forces of nature have power. The true weight of this character, and when I found myself most sitting up in my seat, is his character. It's his morals. It's his kindness. It's his goodness. It's his empathy. It's his moral North Star. That by the end of this movie, I said something that I haven't felt since, gosh, maybe one of the early Chris Evans Captain America movies. I felt inspired to be a better person. When's the last time you were able to say that coming out of a comic book movie? Like watching this Superman, this make-believe character in these stupid red trunks and whatever, and say, this guy on screen inspires me to want to be a better person. And that's where the power of this movie is, Rob, for me. Like, the joy of it is great. The humor is wonderful. The action is great. But for me, at the end of the day, the power is I walked out of that, kind of like the way I walked out of that Mr. Rogers documentary going, damn it, I want to be a better person. That's what this Superman did for me. And to me, that's the true strength of it. So, by the way, Metamorpho was great too. I just want to throw that out there.
Metamorpho was great. I mean, another thing I was like, oh, no, Metamorpho actually has a scene that actually instilled me with a little bit of awe and wonder. He does something in the movie where I was like, wow, what a cool way to utilize. Look, as a lover of that Justice League comic from the mid '80s, that's what this was. And I think to know that going in, there was just little things. There was lots of mayhem going on, right? There was one moment with Krypto where we just kind of catch up to where Krypto is. Like, where's Krypto? And there's a scene that shows it's just one shot, which was hilarious. I'm like, of course, that's where Krypto is.
I
loved it.
I just can't get over. And you know what? A part of my reaction, I confess, a part of my reaction is the word you started off the show with today, Rob, relief. Like a part of it is just like, because remember, I've said forever going, I don't need this to be the best comic book movie ever made.
Yeah.
I just need this movie to be good. It delivers more than that. Again, it's just such a fun, different kind of, I've never seen a comic book movie like this. At least not one like this that's delivered on this level.
I'll tell you one thing, though. I can't wait to see more movies set in this universe.
Oh, my God, me too.
I mean, I was just
Well, that's what I was just thinking, because you said, I can't wait to get back into this. I'm like, well, Supergirl is going to be right.
Okay. Yes. All I'm saying is, boy.
Listen, it's not it's public knowledge. They put it out that Supergirl does appear in the movie. Our audience lost their minds. I can't speak for every movie theater is different. Your movie theater might have been quiet, but our movie theater with the words, your cousin is here. All of this. And then I'm not going to say what happens. And our audience went crazy. There was a big reaction out of our audience.
Again, look, it's the tone of this movie. What you are expecting.
Hey, Frankie, stop spoiling. Guys, they publicly announced that Supergirl was going to make. We've talked about this for months.
Multiple times we've talked about.
This is not a spoiler. This was public knowledge, all right?
It's Millie Alcock. Spoiler.
And they're putting.
We've only known for like a year.
There are people. Here's a funny thing. If you were just list what a lot of the stuff that happens in this movie, if you were just to put it out on paper, a lot of people would be like, "What is this goofiness? Like, what is this?" But if you watch it in context, you've got to watch it in context, and you got to go in with the right attitude about what you're going to see, because I was delighted by most of it. I just thought it's wildly entertaining, and it was so different than what you might expect. But there's going to be a lot of people that don't vibe with it. I understand, but I did.
I see. That's the thing. I don't think there's going to be a lot of people who don't vibe with it, but there are definitely going to be some, and legitimately we are already seeing bad faith actors out there who have been cheering and wanting this thing to fail.
Sure.
But there are going to be a number of people too that legitimately with right intentions are going into this movie hoping to have a good time, and it's just not going to click with their sensibilities. That's art, man. That's art. And there's going to be some of that, and I get it. But that thing that maybe for them makes it not work, for me is what made it work. And I remember, like, my wife, when we walked out, dude, Ann said, I am pissed off that we don't just get to walk right back in and watch it again tonight. It's like, yep, we got to wait till Thursday, and we got our tickets for tomorrow. So
I'm gonna have to wait till Thursday, like me.
Like you. Got to do that. Anyway, guys, the question is for you. What do you think? Hey, many of you guys, I'm sure, were at one of the tons of screenings around the country to go see this last night. If so, what did you think about it overall? What do you think about these ridiculous scores it's getting? 95, 96% from the audience. 80 plus, 85% from the critics right now. Those movie numbers may move up or down a little bit, but I think it's going to be close to those when it's all said and done. Whatever you guys think about all that, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.